Hello, my name is Gabriel Lucero, and I am going to go ahead and do my project 2 on the Whole Foods English only controversy. Um, this whole situation received a lot of backlash from a lot of customers of Whole Foods and a lot of employees, especially employees of Whole Foods that were located in um, places where they speak predominantly or where Spanish or any other language is one of the top languages spoken like in the areas. So pretty much all over the country, wherever there's a Whole Foods, there was most likely some sort of backlash. But um, this one it's a little bit closer to home because this was at a Whole Foods location here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Um, I'm not sure exactly which Whole Foods it took place at. This is the picture of the actual store that it happened at. Um, and the whole situation, this is from the employees' perspective, was that they were clocked in, they were at work, and they were speaking to each other, and they both spoke Spanish. They were both fluent in Spanish, so they were speaking to each other in Spanish, and there wasn't many details on exactly what happened or how the situation came up, but they were accusing Whole Foods and their manager for suspending them for speaking Spanish while on the job. And this was of course, back in 2013. And they were mainly focused on that. And once the story got out, a lot of people were a little bit upset by it because, here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, here at home, a lot of people do speak Spanish. A lot of people speak a bunch of other languages. But being here in New Mexico, a lot of people do speak Spanish. So whenever they are with people that they know speak Spanish and stuff like that, they mainly speak Spanish because they're more comfortable speaking it. It was most likely their first language, or they speak it a lot at home. So it's one of those things where it's a little bit of a weird situation. And according to their manager, their supervisor, and Whole Foods, that they were not suspended for um, speaking Spanish while on the job. And the workers had claimed that they were fired actually from Whole Foods, and Whole Foods was like, no, that's not the case. We were suspending them because they were showing unacceptable behavior. Not sure what that unacceptable workplace behavior was. Um, there was some information in an article that I did use as one of my sources. I'm pretty sure I have it linked somewhere. Uh, they, the manager said that they were brought in to the office to talk about um, the situation of them speaking Spanish on the job, and that they got a little bit out of control, and that's what they were suspended for. That was the unacceptable workplace behavior. Now, not exactly, not in exact details was anything mentioned about the unacceptable workplace behavior or what the reason necessarily was for it. That those were just uh, speculations as to why they might have been suspended for it or even talked to in the first place about speaking Spanish. And a lot of people were boycotting Whole Foods. The employees and the customers, they all called for a boycott, of course. Um, and according to the CNBC article, the company softly changed their wording of their store policy, and all this really did was it was more of just kind of a here, this is all we're gonna do. Now, if you guys don't like it, oh well. Um, we're a private company, so that's one of the bigger things about it. Um, Previously, as you can see in the uh, from the little screenshots that I took of the article, it says previously the company policy stipulated that employees must speak English. If you speak English and are in the presence of customers, and then it goes on to say conversations with other workers had to be in English. Anytime you're on the clock and discussing work related tasks or subjects, and all of that, of course, means that if they are clocked in and um, on company property, then they absolutely have to speak English, especially when dealing with customers and other employees. Whether the other employees speak English or Spanish or whatever other language, they have to speak in English to each other, even if they're not really comfortable saying it. And that creates a bit of a um, somewhat of a language barrier, because if someone's not really fluent or comfortable in speaking English or a certain language, they might try and translate things and it might not go over as well. They might say the wrong things and they might offend a customer or another employee or even their supervisor, just because they're not completely comfortable in saying things and know exactly um, the right use of words because they're not comfortable with the language. And then the bottom picture, this was their so-called revision. When speaking with customers or fellow team members, please make sure you are sensitive to others who may want to join your conversation or ask you a question. If needed, switch to a common language, meaning English, to be inclusive and respectful. And then it said, workers still are required to converse in English with shoppers unless requested otherwise by a customer. So they have to be asked to speak another language, or they have to go get somebody else who might speak the same language and stuff like that, instead of being able to speak whichever language they want, and then finding the right language or the right situation to speak in that language. They're being forced to speak in a common language to be inclusive and respectful. And it's not really inclusive or respectful at all, because they were forcing somebody to speak in a language that they're not necessarily comfortable with. So it's really it's a very interesting topic and a very interesting issue, because as a big corporation, it's not one of the first times that Whole Foods had received backlash. There's other stories that, as I was doing research for this, came up about the owners, and they were facing backlash, some other topics and stuff like that. And if you're interested in it, you can just look up Whole Foods owners controversies, and stuff will most likely pop up. But with this, it's one of the things where it was two specific employees in a specific location. It wasn't just like a broad thing, like, so this is happening at multiple stores and stuff like that. This was happening at one store with two individual employees. So that was one of the things that got a whole lot of attention and a whole lot of movement with it, was because they said we were suspended or fired for speaking English on the job, and we don't know exactly why they decided to fire us or suspend us for that. And it seems like there was a little bit of, to the people who are calling for boycotts and stuff like that, it seems like there was a little bit more than just violating store policy behind it. And of course, as today, or in today's time, there's a whole lot of racial issues and racial tension between everybody. It seems like between everybody. So it's still very relevant today. There's probably still some things going like this, and it might be changed quickly and actually changed, and not softly changed like this today, or whatever. But this was back in 2013, of course. So it's been a few years. It's been almost 8 years now, and it's just one of those things where if it was related to race, then of course that's another issue, another bigger issue to be talking about. But if it's just a matter of store policy, I don't necessarily think that a suspension, even if the workers were a little bit out of control or upset about it, it seems more of just like a issue that needs to be, or a matter that needs to be talked through, instead of a suspension and them going, and then the employees going out saying that they were fired or even suspended because they were speaking Spanish on the job. Um, it just seems to me like one of those issues that could have been resolved a little bit better if it was just handled internally, because then it wouldn't have gotten out. There wouldn't have been backlash behind it, and it wouldn't have been this huge controversy. If it would have just been handled better internally, we could have not seen the fallout from it. And then there was a CNN video about the whole topic, and then there's also some from, I want to say, KOAT, the news network here. They also did a story on it. I couldn't really find the video. I think it might be linked in. I think CNN might have done a story on the story that KOAT did. Um, and this will be linked in the slides that are in my draft. And this is my project 2 final. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and leave them in a discussion board or email me. Thank you.